Hey, look, let me tell you something. We might get about 300 views if we're lucky on this little show here.
Oh my God. Hi, 300, all of you. So
Yeah.
nice to meet you.
Endorse me a little bit because look, hey, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, or else I'm kicking my fucking computer out of my window by January 1st. Tell these people to subscribe for me.
Duh. Yeah, I'll post on my social channels and stuff.
No, I mean, like, actually tell them to fucking just hit the little button. That's all you gotta do. Like you don't even watch half the shit you subscribe to anyway. That's what I'm trying to tell these people.
Just subscribe, guys. I'll make it worth it.
Look, my whole fucking audience is pervy dudes that are like 45 plus. Retract that statement.
Hi, guys. Hi guys, I'm Stephanie Foster. I'm a comic. I live in LA. I just moved here in August, lived in San Francisco for about 10-ish years. 2 of those years I spent living in Barcelona.
Oh.
And that's actually where I started doing comedy. It was in Barcelona.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. I did not pick that up in all my cyber stalking of you.
I'm so curious what you found. I bet
some people cut cocaine with baby laxatives.
A lot of it's your YouTube stuff, so it's nothing like too crazy. But
okay.
Like,
Yeah.
So I got one question for you, like right off the bat. The one girl who you were having a conversation with was talking about having a relationship with married men, which I was kind of like, I was kind of like, does she know that she's on the internet saying this?
This is something I'm not proud of, but I had relationships with married men in the past. So I was not afraid of that. I was like, oh, we love a challenge.
I mean, isn't that the point of podcasts though? I think it's like such a rare platform where people can just be people and talk to each other like you do in your really small, close friendships. And I think like that's the beauty of a podcast, right? It's like the goal is for someone to feel like they're sitting in the couch in the room, eavesdropping on what we would actually talk about. So yeah. And I mean, like, that's what comics do. We like talk about.
Is she a comic or is she a civilian?
Yeah, she is a comic, and we work together a lot.
Work together like on stage? You guys do shows together, or how does that work?
Yeah, we've produced shows together. Well, we're going to be shooting a special together in Austin. Yeah, at the end of this month. So hopefully someone big wants to pick it up, but it's going to be an all-female led comedy night. And I think it's going to be dirtier than any all-male lineup you've ever seen.
So you guys are going to talk about shitting yourselves, which is charming.
Of course. It's my favorite question. When is the last time you've shit your pants? So when's the last time you shit your pants, Lee? When is the last time you've shit your pants, Britt?
I mean, I noticed that too. I was like a little, it's very normal podcasty stuff. And then you're like, hey, I have a question for you. Have you shit yourself? And say something about it.
It's honestly my personality to a T. Like I'll be very normal, carry on normally at work. And then out of nowhere, I will just like, hey, let me ask you something really uncomfortable.
I'm surprised. I'll tell you what's funny is like when you see that and and this is part of your thing, it's like one of your go-to questions. I'm surprised how comfortable people are answering it. Like they don't need, like they kind of hesitate for a second and they just tell you.
And then they're like, well, all right. I have been told that I have a unique quality of making people feel comfortable where they can tell me anything. I do not know how many times someone started off a sentence with, I've never told anyone this, but, and I'm like, what is it about my face that says I want to hear what you've told no one else on the planet?
Now, who is telling you this stuff? Is this dudes telling you this stuff, or is this women, or is this everybody?
Hey, it's everybody. I mean, guys being like, oh, I've always wanted, like after shows, because you're so vulnerable on stage, people feel like you are a therapist and they can come up to you afterwards and ask you anything about your life because Fuck it. You must be so open. And I am not. I am a very like guarded, walls up human being. And I can be vulnerable with some people, but it's really hard for me. And so for people to just come up and be like, oh my God, I'm cheating on my wife. And I'm like, that feels like something I don't want to carry.
Wow. So, okay. Well, here's the thing. What you're saying to me is contradictory to what is on your YouTube channel. So why don't you go ahead and shout that out for the people and see if we can get you some folks, hit you up there, get you some subscribers and stuff.
Yeah. So I have a podcast called Petrol Llama, like spitting gas. A guy friend who's a comic wrote a rap about me, and that was like the hook. So yeah, follow me on YouTube. You can find the podcast on Spotify, on iTunes, basically anywhere podcasts are cast. And yeah, I just interview people from all walks of my life. Just because I've changed my opinion on so many things, like more than a politician, and I've lived all over the world and, you know, grown up in a really conservative place and now live in an ultra liberal place. And so I just like to catch up with people and see what they remember about me.
I mean, you left an imprint on me if it makes you feel any better. That's part of the reason why, you know, for people that don't know, I stalked you a little bit to get you on here. Because you were interesting, and I was like, oh, wow, like, I feel like she'll talk some shit to me, and I feel like she's not very guarded.
Yeah, I mean, I can get to a place where I'm like, let's go. And I think when I sign up to do someone else's podcast, just like I hope people do when they're signing up to do mine, is like, I'll probably tell you anything. I'll be honest, like, because I think that's the beauty of the platform itself.
Yeah.
But I'm nervous now that you've stalked me, what questions you were going to ask.
Well, I mean, it's kind of some basic shit, I think. I mean, because you've already stated in your podcast that I watched, you don't date comedians. And like, tell me why that is. I kind of feel like, and I also had to sift through a few dudes that responded back to my little Facebook inquiry. And they were all like 30-year-old dudes that, you know, they're trying to live the dream and they're kind of mediocre funny. And I feel like if I had to be on a date with any of these dudes, I'd want to kill myself. Yeah, I don't sleep with, I don't date, I don't do anything with comedians, and here's all the reasons why. So explain to people why you don't do that.
Yeah, I don't sleep with comedians or anyone like tied to the process, right? Like producers, club owners, I just don't do it. And here's why. It's similar to what a rule I have at my 9 to 5 is I don't date coworkers. Like, that is a place of business for me. I show up and I'm trying to get rebooked. I'm trying to get my name out there. I want people to know I'm easy to work with, and I'm also going to kill as soon as I get on stage. And so I think it's like, you're just mixing business with pleasure. And unfortunately, there's so few females and you can get a rap so easy. And I don't want to have to suck a dick just to get booked. Like, all
right, well, let me push back a little bit. So who's a comedian? Who's a dude that's like a good looking, like who's Dane Cook? If he calls you, asks you out on a date, I don't know if he's married or not or what his status is. It's a hard no. I mean, we're just not doing that. No.
Yeah, I have been asked out by famous comedians that are very good looking. And it's a no.
Every time.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, I have all of these other men that I can sleep with, and there is no repercussion. I don't have to see them again. They don't have to be my boss in a situation. I don't have to ever think about anything but like being booked for my talent.
All right. That's fair. I just don't.
Why do you want me to sleep with comedians so bad?
I don't know that I just don't. Here's because I'm a dude, and here's the problem is that I draw these hard lines. I'm like you, my 9 to 5, although my married life and the wife I have, I met her at my 9 to 5. So that's a total fucking lie right there.
I will only marry my coworkers. I will not sleep with them.
Oh, you'll be surprised because originally I had this hard policy, and it was like, oh, should we keep the secret? Do we tell people about this? And then eventually it was like, my coworkers, I'm like, hey, I just proposed to Melanie, and they were like, what? Like, we didn't know that was even like a thing. I was like, oh yeah, it's been going on for like 2 years. Like, y'all just had the wool over your eyes. So I think you're lying a little bit, but all right, I'm going to move on from there. Tell me. So now here's where I'm curious.
Okay.
I want to know, because you're a female comedian, like, do you feel like they have to be on when they go out with you? Like, if you just date a dude that's like a civilian. What are they like?
Yeah, Dating Regulars by Stephanie. It really depends, right? Like it all starts with the dating profile. And it's like, do you put that you're a comedian? Do you not?
I feel like you should put no for that. I wouldn't want somebody to know I'm a comedian because then it'd be like, they show up and they're like, all right, Stephanie, be funny. And you're like, no, fuck, you entertain me. You're the dude.
100%. But I think like that happens with guys, girls, anyone. They're like, oh, you're a comedian? Well, like fucking be on then. And you're like, okay, also I did this Excel spreadsheet. Can that be enough today? But yeah, I think it's like, I don't know. I think guys take it one of two ways. One, they're like, grilling me like this is an interview about, you know, when did you start? How did you get into it? What are your jokes about? Why don't you tell me a joke? Or the worst thing a guy can say is like, oh, I've got a joke for you. And I'm like, honestly, really? Like, really? So if I was dating a painter, I'd be like, oh, I've got a painting for you. Go away. Or they'll say something funny and be like, oh, are you going to use that in your set? And you're like, how presumptuous that you think you are interesting enough to make my set.
Let me tell you, total candor. I hope that this shitty podcast somehow ends up in your set and you send it to me like, hey, dude, you did it. Congratulations. Like
you made it.
You're one of the few chosen guys that's like made it into my shitty, and I didn't even sleep with you. How lucky am I?
Truly.
That's
I don't know. I think it's hard being a woman in comedy. There is no way around it. It is very difficult. Everyone thinks that, you know, because you talk about sex on stage that you'll sleep with anybody, or I don't know, like myself on stage is one side of me. And it is the, like, I'm going to call you on everything, be a total bitch, and then like play stupid because I want to point out how stupid something is. But that's not how, that's not how.
Let's roll that back for me. So is that something you do in your personal life to get material? You just fuck with people a little bit? Because that's what you just described to me.
No, I wouldn't do it in real life, which is why I do it on stage, because I have to get it out of my system somewhere. So where I really want to be like, really? Because I can get that way, especially with men who like feel entitled and that kind of thing. I'm like, no. Let me just read you right now.
It's like this whole, because I feel like the comedian dynamic, like if you were out on a date, I feel like in a way, we're almost on a weird date now where like,
yeah.
like Zoom dating, like after like the pandemic or during the pandemic when people like, go out and like do shit. Like, I mean, so you sit there and people are like, you're a comedian, tell me jokes. Tell me like, what's the worst thing like a dude is like asked you to do, like, or just said, or like where he really fucked it up with you and just disqualified himself. And maybe he had a chance to begin with.
I think it's specifically when a guy tries to tell me about comedy. That's where I am just like, how are you so out of touch with this situation? Like, this is something I'm not an expert in, but I have spent quite a few hours of my life doing.
More jokes on stage than you have, dude.
Yeah. And so a lot of guys will be like, oh, I love stand-up. And so I can name all the stand-ups and I can recite all the jokes. And you're like, I'm glad you've watched a lot of TV. That's cool. But like, also, you've never done it. And like to actually get up there and do it and do the open mic circuit and then fall on your face in front of a ton of people. Like, I will listen to comics advice all fucking day long. But until you've gone up there and done it, it just like bothers me in the core of my spirit. I'm like, it's like the worst kind of mansplaining on the planet.
Yeah, you actually took the words right out of my mouth. And that's like, you know what? And I wanted to, because look, here's the deal. I do this, to be totally honest with you, because it's a very safe space. And if I fuck something up, I can just go back and edit it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but like when I watch comedy, and to be honest with you, I don't even love stand-up comedy. I mean, I love like the greats. I love like Dave Chappelle and like Bill Burr and some of those people. But like to get up there and tell a bunch of strangers jokes and like hope they laugh. And this isn't like your friends. This isn't your family. These people that are going to gas you up. Like that to me is like, that's torture almost, you know? And maybe I could get up there and do like a set one time, but I couldn't do it over and over and over again. At least I don't think I could.
It is torture of some kind, right? Like I describe it as it's the safest way to scare the shit out of yourself constantly. Like you're not harming anyone, you're harming your ego. That needs to be harmed every once in a while and keep you in check. So I don't know. It's made me, I can walk into any conference room or business situation and I don't feel nervous. And I used to just like have so much anxiety about those kinds of situations. And do I sound smart? And like, blah, 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 blah. And now that I have failed publicly so many times, I don't get nervous about it anymore because I'm like, yeah, I know what that feels like. It doesn't feel good, but I also know it's survivable.
So tell me, like, what's the worst time where you're like, oh, this is crickets. This
So I told you that I started comedy in Barcelona. So I came back to San Francisco and none of my friends had ever seen me do comedy before. So I was like, I'm going to invite everybody. This is going to be tight. Everyone's going to think I'm so cool. So I invited everyone and I forgot my set in the middle of the set. Oh. And I like did a really long pause and I was doing a lot of those like in between things like, so you guys get it. Am I right? Just trying to waste time and think what the hell I'm supposed to say next. And nada. I mean, we are talking blank slate. So I just start talking and I just start making up a joke on the spot. And I almost get to what I hope is a punchline. It's not funny at all. And it hits me what I'm supposed to be saying. I'm like, fuck that joke. And I just go immediately into the next one. But it was such a bomb. It was such a bomb.
Now, did you just get nerves? Because now not only are you in a new country, but you got not all your friends, but a lot of your friends and like you're trying to impress them and you just froze or what?
Yeah, I think it was that. I think it was everybody being there at once. And like in my 9 to 5, I am the business person and I work with creatives and I work with writers and I work with art directors and they come up with all these beautiful things. And so for me to now say I'm artistic and this is like I can write too, it felt like I was not only going to show my friends, but show some of the toughest critics about what I do.
Yeah. And
so
tell me, like, so when's the moment? Because I mean, the bombing part's the worst part, but at some point you got to get that fuel where you're like, oh, fuck yeah, like I'm doing it. So like, tell me that experience, maybe that joke, if you think it's funny and in context or.
Yeah. So you'll hear this with a lot of comics, but they go on stage for the first time and for whatever reason, they kill. And then the next 1,000 times after that are just like trudging through just the shittiest shit. And so my first time up was in Barcelona and I murdered. I mean, I had people like I had to wait for people to stop laughing so I could start my next joke. And It just was like an immediate, oh my God, I have unique value. Like, this is my thing. This is what I'm good at. This is like, it was just that moment of feeling like, I remember at that time in my life, I was like, why the fuck am I on this planet? Like, what am I doing? I don't like my job. I don't like my boyfriend. I don't like anything. And so like, what am I going to do? Who am I? Why am I like, what's my thing? Everyone had a thing, a passion. And I just was like, I love to go out with my friends. And so, yeah, it just was that first moment that I was like, shit, this is my thing. This is like what I'm supposed to be doing.
Oh, but it wasn't like one specific joke. It was like the whole experience of just getting people to do it and laugh and whatever else comedians get people to do.
Yeah, it felt so good. It was like that validation. When you make one other person laugh, it feels good. You're like, I'm great. And I think like I grew up in a household where like we had to have humor, and humor got everything else was dispelled when that happened. and you could make someone laugh, you could get away with murder. And so humor was always a big thing. And I had an older brother and he was really hard on me. And so I always had to like have the comebacks, be ready, be witty, be all of those things. And so it just finally was like, oh, here's a place where that can go.
Do you feel like that? Because what you're describing to me a little bit, I feel like it's a little dangerous for people that are like aspiring stand-ups, and you have to have a real honest conversation with yourself and go, am I living room funny where I'm talking to my family and friends and they all think I'm funny? Am I funny at the bar? Or can I be funny for a bunch of strangers? Like how, like, I mean, are you super critical of yourself, or do you just say, fuck it, I'm going to get up here and do it. Whatever happens, happens. How does that work?
I am so critical. I am so mean to myself. I'm really working on it. Positive self-talk, all of that kind of stuff.
Don't you feel like that like keeps you funny and keeps like, you know, counters out all the bullshit?
No, I think I would try more things if I wasn't like berating myself so much for the little things. I'd feel freer to be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. Like I get so precious about what I say on stage and I'm like, oh, it's not funny. It's not funny. It's not funny. But if I would just go say it on stage, like that's how you work out the joke. It has to start shitty. And then you kind of like start picking up, oh, the crowd laughs at that one point every time. Why? Okay, they're not laughing here. I've got to keep trying new lines. That one works. Okay. Like, and that's kind of how you build up the jokes in that way.
Yeah, that seems to be, see, like, as opposed to most other art forms where if like you're a painter or a sculptor, you can kind of go back and redo things. When you're live on stage, if you fuck up, you fucked up. Like there's no way to unring that bell, right?
No, especially with cameras and kids and all of that kind of shit. Like you're always being taped. There's so many times where I like log onto my Instagram and some stranger has Instagrammed me and like tagged me in it. And I'm like, wow, I need to behave appropriately in public.
Oh.
But you were saying earlier, like this is not something I would recommend to someone ever. It is so hard. I'm still like so far down at the bottom. It's not even funny, but I love it. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel about my little shitty YouTube thing I'm doing right here. It's like, I kind of started this at the pandemic and like, you know, I'm a square two. I work a 9 to 5. And then like, I started doing this just because like, it was the one time in my adult life where I didn't have like a job. So I was like, fuck, what would I do? Like, what should I do at this time? You know what? Maybe I'll just like start a podcast or something like that. And it ended up being like YouTube. And I keep finding like interesting people to talk about that have YouTubes. Although you're particularly interesting because you're an actual stand-up. So like, I feel like you're kind of a winner on my show anyway.
Love to be at the top somewhere.
Are you raising the roof? Is that what's happening? Like that's stoked to be one of, you know, this
45. That's like at the top of my limit of dating.
Oh yeah. See, so you're all you dudes that are watching this friend zoned automatically.
Sorry guys, I'm 33. Got to keep it close to my age.
He doesn't want your old wrinkly elasticity, lost skin. She doesn't want
that. Unless you're like regularly doing yoga, then like you can reach out, but
draw hard boundaries today. And I feel like you're like, I'm slowly like ticking away. Like, you know what? 45 is a negotiable. That's not that big a deal if you do yoga.
Yeah. I mean, anything for a follower, you know?
Chicks, you look at them, and dudes too. You look at them and like, well, clearly you're single because you're kind of a mess.
Yeah. Or the minute they open their mouth, you're like, oh, okay. I get it.
Tell me about that date where like the dude opened his mouth and you were just like, oh, I'm done with you.
Well, my first date I went on in LA, this guy played with his chest hair the entire date. And I'm talking like twirl city, like, oh, it's
what are we dealing with? Is he what nationality? What is this?
He was a white guy from Sweden.
Oh, he had that much chest hair?
He had a lot of chest hair. He called himself a bear.
Like a gay dude calls a bear?
No, he just told me that he would like to be my grizzly bear. And I was like, I don't remember asking for one, but
Fucker, that didn't get a call back.
No, he was like way too touchy on a first date, and it was in COVID. And I was like, have you heard the news? Like, what are you doing? So it was a hard no for me. He texted me and asked me for another date. And I was like, nice meeting you, but no, thank you. And he was like, but I love you.
Oh.
And my therapist likes to tell me that I'm very lovable, but I don't want to be that lovable.
I do. That's another difference in chicks and dudes. Chick told me here's the difference between you and me. I went out with a girl one time, and she was like, for me especially, she was a good looking girl and I wanted to like her. And then she hit me with an I love you. And I was like, she's just having a good time and talking shit. And then she's like, hey, do you want to like go to a spin class tomorrow? And I was like, no. I was like, what time are you talking about? She's like, 7 a.m. I was like, have you lost your fucking mind? So then I was like, I'm very flattered. I was very excited. Somebody told me they loved me right on date one, but I was like, maybe not the person. And then I should have I'll tell you, big red flag. She told me she was studying to be a shrink. Just like, oh, cool. Like, you're kind of bright. She's, yeah, I got a master's. I'm working on my PhD, all this, all that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then she began to tell me, yeah, I don't really want to graduate with my graduating class because they're all assholes. And I was like, how many people are in this class? She's like, a couple hundred. And I'm like, and they're all assholes? Maybe the problem they're all assholes.
The unifying thread through all those hundreds of people.
To quote Dr. Phil, the common denominator in that whole thing.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, dating's interesting, right? I think.
No, I'm married. It's interesting because I get to live through other people's lives, but it's like, once you kind of get married, that all dies down. And then I hear people from you and they're like, I'm having such a tough time. And it's like, oh, tell me about your tough time.
Yeah. Let me tell you about my tough time. I think it's just like, I'm at the point in my life.
How old you are? It's not rude, right?
No, I'm 33.
Oh yeah, you're 33. You don't. 45 is the high. What's the low? How about that?
Oh God, my friend Ramel and I were just talking about this the other day. It depends. Are we talking just sleeping with, or are we talking about like dating? Like, are we on vacation?
Okay.
Like, am I never going to see this human again? I mean, I probably wouldn't go lower than like 25.
18 would have been way cooler.
25. No, but like, I think I need him to have had experience before me. This is not a teaching hospital. You need to show up and you need to have already figured it out. I'm not here to show you how to have a good time or be a good person. So that's how I feel about it. But like dating, I don't think I would date anyone. Definitely not under 30, but probably not under 33.
Let me tell you something else. Let me tell you about dudes real quick, Stephanie.
Okay.
We're all under 30. Like we're all 12-year-olds with like responsibilities. Like that's all dudes are. You got to realize this. Like we're not like once you hit 12, 13, I still high five every time somebody says 69, I still high five people. And I'm fucking like it never becomes unfunny.
Well, I'm dating someone right now in their 40s.
And does he high five you when somebody's like, "Oh, the tab is $69."
69, dudes.
He doesn't.
Oh,
he doesn't.
Yeah. Either he's lame or you have a winner.
I think I have a winner. I don't know. Right now, like
how far down the road are we? Are we a month in or are we like a year in?
We're like a couple months and nothing's defined. Like I need time. And I need to see you in a lot of different situations. Like I've just signed up for a lot of bad deals. And so I'm really hesitant now, especially just because being 33, I have a career, I have a great apartment, I live in LA, I travel, like I have a great life. I'm so happy. And so if I do end up getting with someone at this point, it's like, you better be bringing something to my life because things are good.
I'm not wasting my jokes on your dumb ass.
Right? Like this sounds so shitty, but like during quarantine, I just decided to like myself. I'm the full package. I'm cute. I'm funny. I have my shit together. I don't need anybody to take care of me.
Ooh,
like,
look at you.
I'm all of the things. And so I think before I'd be like, oh, wow, what potential? And now I'm like, no, I'm not looking at anybody's potential. I'm looking at them for who they are now, what they're doing, like how much they're investing in themselves.
I was totally hoping you were going to say how much money they make.
Oh, no, I don't care. I support myself. So as long as you're like even with me and I'm not paying for you, because I have done that in the past and that was not recommended to the one woman listening to this.
No, unless it's my wife. I don't even think she fucking listens. I think
none.
She's like, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Somebody could stumble on. You know, this YouTube algorithm is very interesting. So if I put female comedian in like the title,
that's true.
Maybe we diversify.
That's really true.
Oh, you know what? You should be very flattered because you are the first female I think I've had on this thing.
You should be very disappointed in yourself for not thinking of that until
I've never really looked at it and been like, oh man, I need some chicks.
What other people have you interviewed?
Mostly just my friends. Actually, no, that's not totally true. Like the very beginning of this, I was just like, what does this even look like? And I was just kind of like, similar to what a comedian would do, I would think. You just kind of work out an idea and you're like, what's this even look like? So I called up a few of my friends. Those are the first is even more pathetic than that. I'm like in my car just talking shit to a phone because I'm like, how do I make this happen? And I just kind of throw it up there because if I didn't just throw it up there, I would never do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kept, building on that and building on that. And then I called a couple friends. One of them was particularly fucking funny and he's got the most views on there and he's not a comedian, but at the time he was unemployed and he didn't give a fuck. And he's just like, his most embarrassing moment was getting a boner in 6th grade, which I was like, whoa, all right. You do know you are online here, right? Like this is memorialized.
Yeah, but like there's nothing more embarrassing that's happened to you but getting a boner in 6th grade. Like live a little.
Dude, that's a little embarrassing. I'm sorry.
Why? Really? Everyone gets a boner and like girls get boners in 6th grade.
Let's not get crazy here. I don't know how that works. I'm curious, but how does that work?
You've never heard of a lady boner?
Not in 6th grade.
Oh, well, we're not in 6th grade anymore. Also, that's why it should be like.
Let's talk more about boners and stuff. So you don't. So I'm here. That you're like, so like, give me some more embarrassing moments. Like those are my favorite things that like, whenever I ask people dumb questions, it's like, what's your most embarrassing moment? And then they hit me with something fucking that I was like out of left field. That's always my favorite.
Okay. What is my most embarrassing? I just have so many.
Well, top in your head will work for me.
Okay. So when I lived in Boulder, Colorado, I lived below a paraplegic. And because he couldn't get into the bottom of his house. And so he rented it out. And like, I was like, tight, this is cheap rent, great neighborhood. Let's go. So he and I were friends. His name was Hamish. And we would have dinner on Tuesday nights, hang out in the backyard. We were tight. And I was away on business. And I had been in an edit room. And if you've ever been in an edit room, you're like in this dark cave for hours on hours, reviewing the same footage over and over with just like tiny little changes. And you don't even know what a world is anymore. So I get home from that, immediately get home, downstairs, put my running shoes on, and I run upstairs and see Hamish. And I'm like, hey man, I'm going for a run. I just cannot sit for one more minute. To a paraplegic in a wheelchair.
Did he have a boner?
He didn't have a boner.
That's what I was hoping you were going to say. I put on my running shoes and blah, 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 and this guy had a huge fucking boner, and I never thought a paraplegic could get a boner.
No. Mm-mm.
But, I mean, did he care? Did he think you were being insensitive? Was he one of these woke people that thinks everything is, like, offensive?
No, he laughed for like an hour straight and I cried. It was a weird moment and I was very embarrassed.
I saw Joe Biden, like this thing on like, Fox News where they're just razzing Joe Biden because he told some guy in the audience, like, stand up and give yourself a hand. And the guy was in a wheelchair.
Chuck Graham, state senator's here. Chuck, stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up though, pal.
Like, you're in good company. It's not a big deal.
I'm sorry, but that is just.
You do think, the thing is, like, especially as a comedian, you think that you're aware of yourself And I think I'm aware of myself until I do something dumb like that. And it's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty self-aware, but I'm also a very anxious person. And so having anxiety is just hilarious when you're done being in that situation. It is mortifying when you're there, but as soon as you step away, you're like, that's fucking funny. Humans are so weird. Like, that's the funniest stuff, and the best comedians is when they 100% just base it off their own life experience.
Do you think, let me ask you this, because I've thought about this. So I feel like the best comedians have like a little bit of a balance between something that's out of left field about an experience you can relate to. Is that like how you think about it as an actual person that does this? Because I have that thought all the time where it's like I watch somebody that's great, like Dave Chappelle or Bill Burr, and it's like they give you this situation that everybody's been in, you know what I mean? And then they kind of like, hey, but did you think about it this way? And it's like, oh, fuck, I didn't. And then you start laughing.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because that's exactly how you write jokes. I mean, you were saying earlier, people need to know if they're like living room funny or stand-up funny, but like the biggest job of stand-up is writing the material and being able to write it in a way that is funny. How you write a joke is first you come up with a premise, and the premise is something really smart take on something in the world, and 99 out of 100 times it's not funny. Like a premise is like, isn't it weird that? Isn't it funny that? I hate that. And it's usually like something that irks you versus something you notice that makes you happy, because people don't want to hear about how happy you are. They just don't. That's not funny. But they want to hear how much pain you're in, how embarrassed you are, like all of those kinds of things. And so you start there, and then that's when you start writing the funny part after that of like, what's it like? When else do you have that exact feeling or say those similar terms, and then you just start brainstorming on that too. And like, sometimes you'll just like think of two things at a line and you're like, oh shit, I got to write that down. There's a joke there.
So my question is another thing that you just made me think of it again. Not just like when you're writing jokes, but I feel like a lot of these comedians, and maybe you tell me if I'm right or wrong, you talk to a lot more comedians than I do. Matter of fact, I think you're like, I talked to Jeff, what's his name? Jim Jeffers, like one time. But other than that, I don't think I've actually ever talked to like a comedian. So you tell me, is there like a lot of these folks that you encounter in the comedy world, do they have like a chip on their shoulder or some kind of trauma that they're really trying to like figure their shit out on stage, and they're just kind of using us as their sort of audience, if you will, to kind of get their stuff out, or what?
Yeah, I think there's a large percentage. I think a large percentage of people who are funny in general have been through some shit. And it's not so much like, oh, let me process this in front of you. But part of me getting over something is making it to where I can laugh at it. And
yeah, is that like the defense mechanism that comedians have? Like something happens to you when you're 6 years old and you just kind of got to keep yourself laughing so you don't cry, or what?
I think it's that. I think it's like laughter's a distraction, right? Like it's something that cuts the tension in a room. So if you were like a peacekeeper in your family, then that's just something that you did to make sure that things stayed chill. Sometimes it's not like, oh my God, I went through this horrible life and look at me now. It's just like, what the fuck? A lot of really dumb stuff has happened to me. Let me tell you about it. And 9 times out of 10, something that's happened to you happened to someone else. And so that's really what you're trying to get them to do, is resonate with the feeling that you had, not exactly what is happening, but if you can connect on that feeling, then it's going to be a lot easier on the back end to make them laugh.
Yeah, maybe that's why people open up to you. I feel like you're very connectable.
Thank you.
You know what? And no bullshit, I really felt like that when I was. So let's talk about your World Series of Comedy submission. One of the things that, I took away from that, like that was the first thing I saw. And I was like, oh, this chick's funny. Like, let me hit her up. And then like after like a week or whatever went by and I watched some more of your podcasts, I was like, oh man, I totally want to talk to her even more now. But you struck me as like super relatable. So like, is almost all that stuff like from your real life, or what?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I, for a long time, struggled with anxiety and depression. And I just constantly was like, my number one goal is for everyone in my life to think that I have everything together and I am just so chic and wonderful and everyone wants to be me. that's exhausting. And you do a lot of fucked up shit trying to do that. And so I don't know. I think for me, I just wish there was more honesty among conversations of what things are like. Like take like motherhood, for example. I have no experience with this, but a lot of the stories that we were told around it is like, oh, being a mother is so beautiful. And I just love every minute. And like, I would so much rather hear from a mom that's like, this is so hard. Like this kid is being like an absolute dictator today. And he's tiny and he relies on me for food. And yet he speaks to me this way. Like, I want to get to the real, the authentic, the genuine. Like, I am not a surface level conversation kind of person. At like small talk, I'm like, I am so bored. I have to go. Like, let's talk about something real. And I don't mind being vulnerable as long as I know that the other person is going to be as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm really shitty at being vulnerable. You can ask my wife. She will tell you that. However, I hate small talk, but I really like knowing people. Like I'd rather than you tell me what you do for a living, like I'd rather be like, what'd you eat for breakfast today? Like, give me those mundane details that like, I'd have to be a fly on your wall to understand. Like, I feel like those are the most interesting comedy bits. I feel like they're the most interesting conversations to have.
100%. I want to know someone's weird. I don't want to know where we're similar. I want to know where we're different because that's an interesting conversation. If we're similar and we agree, we're like, oh yeah, they're so great. So great. It's so great. Conversation's over. But if we disagree, like that's where the fun stuff comes in. What else should we talk? I don't know what to talk shit about right now.
So tell me, so like, where are you performing next? And like, how do people find you and all that stuff?
Yeah, I am mainly on Instagram at SLU Foster, Slew Foster. My full name is Stephanie Lucille Foster, not Slut Foster, as a lot of people like to point out. That's what it looks like.
Oh my.
Like I said, you can find my let's see. You can find my podcast on all the places podcasts are cast. And then if you are in the Austin area, we'll be filming a special at Antone's on June 24th. So be there, buy tickets. They're on sale.
Well, shit. That's awesome.